I want to suggest to everyone out there that borrowing is not a bad thing. At the individual level, you borrow. At the business level, you borrow. And at the national level, governments borrow. The inner detail here is when we borrow, how do we spend the money that has been borrowed? And that speaks to planning and prioritization. So in the case of Uganda, we have a national development plan, which has carefully been done. And I think this year, the budget should be speaking to how we're going to spend resources that we mobilize both from within the country, but also from outside, to be able to create jobs, to be able to drive output, to drive exports, and really make this economy better. And you are speaking about a budget of 45 trillion shillings. Now, if this year we are hitting the 50 trillion mark in terms of borrowing, then the question one would ask is, where are we putting this money? And I know very well that a big chunk of this money has been put in infrastructure, energy development, infrastructure by way of road and rail, waterways, but also to fix systems and institutions. These are primarily important in improving the business environment and reducing the cost of doing business. If it's easier for me to move from here to the sea, I can export. It is very easy for me to do that. It's very easy for me to import raw materials, capital items, and so on and so forth, and it helps the economy. If it's easier for me to get from down deep in the villages and bring my milk to the market in the urban center, Kampala or Mbarara, or bring my maize into Jinja from down deep in the rural area because of an improved infrastructure, then that makes a lot better environment. And these are the areas that I want to suggest that even if we increase our borrowing requirement, we pay a lot of attention to sectors that help create wealth. That is important, away from consumptive sectors. The 40 million people now, they must feed, they must clothe, they must shelter, they must do all these kind of things. So the construction sector, the food industry, all these things must be up and running. And we must support the private sector to come up into the market with the standards that it so requires, with the volume that it so requires, and so on. So I want to see the money that we are going into these areas, including other areas like the environment, supporting environment, the regeneration of the environment, water, sanitation. These are critically important for livelihoods, especially in the rural areas, where our people do not have access to clean water and so on and so forth. So this is where the borrowed money should go. So if you ask me, are we blowing up? Is the debt going to be unsustainable? It will only be unsustainable if we are not careful on planning and prioritization. Where do we want to put this money? If the economy is going to be driven by the private sector, what are those things in the private sector that must be fixed to help competitiveness, to help profitability grow, to increase productivity? Like training, skilling is very important for any country. To skill your people, human resource, so that people have the competences, people understand what they are doing in whatever sector they operate. The implication will be positive if we are positive on where we want to put these resources. But if we simply borrow and forget about supervising these resources, and that is very important, government programs, policies, projects are ill-supervised. And that's where much of the problem comes in. We don't meet the objectives most of the time, and this money, ideally, there is no value for money. servicing wouldn't have a big impact on the private sector if, in the first place, the money that we are getting or we are borrowing has been put to the right production, the right purpose, in terms of production, in terms of supporting the private sector, because they are making money. Tax them when they make more money, all right? If I'm making a lot of profits and you tax me, government will be vibrant on resources. You can be able to pay back these debts to service your loans as and when. The problem is when you borrow money and you don't put it to the right use, those businesses that you would otherwise get taxes from collapse because of poor regulation, because of poor levels of competitiveness. They cannot compete with everyone else because of standards and then many other things. They don't have the skills with which to actually come to the market, to produce and come to the market and so on. So it's these that we have to fix so that when this business comes to the market, yes, they are competitive and they can be able to grow profits. When they do that, government now comes and taxes these guys to service their debts.